back to the HaneyBiz Project with host Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Comstocks Magazine. I'm Mark Haney, and I am joined by John Bissell, the CEO of Origins Materials. How you doing, John?
Doing all right.
I appreciate you coming back down. It's been a couple years. You were known as Micromidas back in the day.
Yep.
What's changed in this last couple of years?
It's been interesting. So really what we've done is we've taken in investment, substantially from two of our big announced customers, Nestle and Danone, and then we've taken in a variety of investment around that as well. And so we've got the money essentially that we needed, and we're converting that into the plant. That plant is going to operate with our technology, and that's the first step in generating revenue, in getting to convert all of this research and investment and technology into something that actually helps the world in a material way.
Well, let's talk about that research and technology and what this is going to turn into. Give us an overview of the organization and what these products are that you're developing.
Yeah, so what we do is we take biomass is what we call it, but what that really means is sort of wood chips, or it could be cardboard waste or yard waste, something like that, and we convert that into chemicals and materials that you use. It's sort of I've heard it described as the world of things, right? So people talk about the world of bits. The chemical industry, and we enable the world of things. And we try to make things that are better, that are more economic, and that are more environmentally friendly. So fewer greenhouse gas emissions, better for human beings generally, right? All sorts of stuff like that. So the thing that we talk about the most that we make is PET, which is what you put into plastic bottles or polyester fiber in your clothing, something like that. So we take, instead of making it from oil, we take wood chips or biomass, which sucks carbon out of the atmosphere to grow the thing that's used as the feedstock, and we make plastic.
And I think last time we talked, petroleum was, $30 a barrel, somewhere in the 30s. It's now, I think it's gone up quite a bit since then. It's still not high, but part of your value proposition is you're competing with petroleum, right?
Yep.
So how are things looking on that front?
So it's great. I mean, even when it was in the 30s, we felt okay. There was some pressure there, but as we've discovered in the intervening years, right? I think I don't look every day. The last time I looked in the last couple of days, I think it was 67 a barrel. Yeah. So it was getting pretty hot.
Got, twice as possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right. And so all of that essentially is exciting margin. Now what we found out, of course, is that it's volatile, right? So people will often tell you the price of oil, well, now it's low and it's going to be low forever. That's never the case. Also, it's never going to be high forever. But that uncertainty in the price and the way that manifests in the planning of our customers, that's a big deal, right? So if you're buying substantial amounts of material for the foregoing 6 months, 12 months, and the price of your material could change during that period of time by a factor of 2 or sometimes even 3, that's hard to plan for.
Okay.
One of the main value propositions that we bring, aside from the environmental benefit, is that we can provide fixed cost pricing,
Yes.
right? So we can suck the volatility out of this. And that doesn't mean you want to necessarily have all in volatile pricing. Sometimes it's useful to have a little bit of volatility, but it means that you have another thing that you can add to your buying portfolio of material.
Right. I can imagine that stable pricing allows you really to project out where things are going to be. It gives you that confidence to move forward and invest.
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly right. If you look at the price of so we just talked about the price of oil changing by a factor of 2 in the last year. If you look at the price of trees in a given area, it's been essentially flat for about 100 years on an inflation-adjusted basis.
So you're taking trees or other items that might be considered waste,
Sure.
and you're buying them, and you're making you're making plastic bottles. Are these bottles now something that are going to be recyclable? I mean, how environmentally friendly is this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. One of our key stipulations when we were going to look at plastic bottles was that it has to be recyclable. You have to be able to recycle it in the existing recycling streams. And that's because there's a lot of infrastructure that's been set up by these companies, right? Nestle and Danone, they care a lot about making sure that their materials are recyclable. That's a critical part of their strategy. If they're going to introduce something new, if it can actually be better, it needs to also still be recyclable.
How much of your focus is on, right, these are water companies that have, like bottled water type companies that have invested into Origins. How much of your focus is around stuff related to water bottles?
So water bottles for us are, they're a big part of the market. They're exciting. There are a lot of reasons that are probably overly technical for why water bottles are a good starting spot. But if you can do it for water bottles, you can do it for carbonated soft drinks. You can do it for fiber, which is polyester, all that kind of stuff. So that's not a stopping place. That's just the starting spot.
And the idea, not only from a you have the fixed pricing, but the environmental concerns have become so huge. You can't even buy you have to pay for a plastic bag when you go into the grocery store. I mean, how much is this a game changer for, I guess, every industry?
Yeah, so we've been doing some studies around that, and you got to be kind of careful about the way you account for all those sorts of things. So people are very touchy about it because you can fudge the numbers. There's no gap accounting people are trying to develop a gap type standard for environmental benefit, but it's not really entirely accepted at this point. So I would say, broadly speaking, we see substantial double-digit reductions in the greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram, let's say, of plastic that we make. Now, it could be even better than that, could be a lot better than that, but a lot of that's sort of being sorted out right now by our customers. And they make a lot of those final determinations about how do you account for that. We don't. We make it, we do the best we can. We say, look, you guys measure this. You tell us what you think it should be.
And you launched your business. You went to UC Davis, launched your business, and opened up in West Sac. Tell us about the beginnings, and then maybe some of the struggles that you've had to go through since the last time you were on the show, because I know it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, sure. So really, for us, getting the money together, that's always a challenge because people, industrial investment is becoming more interesting. In fact, over the last 2 years, it's the overall feeling about industrial and technology investment has changed quite a bit. I mean, Tesla is a major driver of that, right?
Okay.
Tesla is basically an industrial technology that's obviously it's automotive, so it's not the same as ours, but it's the same class of let's invent technology that affects the real world instead of software. Right. And so that's starting to change the overall investing environment, and that helped us. But for us, the real challenge, because we closed our round of financing about a year and a half ago now. So the real challenge for us and what we've been thinking about is how do we take what's really a research and a search and exploration kind of organization that does business development and technology development and not lose that, but add on the ability to execute on complicated high stakes projects with a fixed schedule and a lot of bits and pieces that can't be dropped, right? In research, you can sort of, as long as you get the big stuff, maybe the little stuff doesn't matter that much.
Well, you use the term execute, which is something that I think all businesses end up facing, right? If you raise the money, you got this, you've laid out the vision, but you've got to execute. And it makes me think about team and culture and sharing the vision. What do you do to share the vision to ensure excellent execution?
Yeah. So we do a lot to share the vision internally. So as we've grown as a company, one of the most important things that we do is we make sure that our team understands the vision of the company. That's important because a lot of what we do is it's challenging. It's not always easy to connect your particular task to the overall vision of the company, and but people need to believe you have to access what we call their sort of discretionary effort. That willingness to go over and above to get the job done, even when it's hard, even when it's painful, even when it's not the thing that you really wanted to do that day. And so helping people in the team connect whatever it is they're doing to the overall goals of the company has been incredibly helpful for us, and it's really important.
Well, what is the overall vision at this stage? When I know it started off, the vision has to have gotten bigger at this stage, right? I mean, your imagination is so much more powerful when you have all this money behind you, I would assume.
Yeah, so it is. It's been a pretty consistent vision at what we think of as the fully mature version of the company, which, by the way, for an industrial company can take time, right? It's often measured in decades to get to your apex, not 5 years, not 3 years, not 10 years even sometimes.
I suppose that's why someone in private equity or venture capital might be less likely to go in, and you really are going to be someone like Danone or Nestle, who are going to be around for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. So they can make a long-term strategic investment.
That's exactly right. Now, what we're finding is as we get closer to that fruition of the technology financially, we're getting to a point where now you can start to access other pools of capital, right? In a way that was more challenging early on. You really had to have people who understood that industrial technologies, they build big moats around themselves. They can get long-term assets that perform for decades and sometimes generations, not just a few years, right? But so the big company the big vision for us is really that we're going to supply a fundamental new material to the world. And when you're talking about that, that's like, you're talking hundreds of millions, in some cases, of tons a year. So that's millions of rail cars worth of material per year. That's our big vision. How do we do that and make people's lives better, and to do it more economically and in a more environmentally friendly fashion than we do right now?
Is there a brand name behind the product you're building? You say a new material, like it's like plastic, or what's it called?
So that's a really interesting question. So DuPont, historically in our industry, is known for branding their materials. So if you go through and you think about Teflon, right?
Yes.
Teflon is a DuPont branded material. Everybody in our industry tries to do that. Very few of them do it successfully. So there's a lot of, and part of the reason is that you're selling your material. We're quite far back in the supply chain from the end consumer. So pushing your brand above and beyond a consumer product company's brand. If we were selling to, I'll pick somebody that's not related to us. If we were selling to Tesla, right? Do you think Tesla is going to allow or really want us to feature our materials brand over their Tesla car? That's a hard thing to do. But DuPont has done it for 100 years. They've done that successfully.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, some choices in marketing that have never reached, my low level, my desk. However, thinking here, we only have a minute or so left, but in sharing the vision, your vision is changing. How would you, just for advice for us entrepreneurs in how we might share our vision, how we might think of going maybe bigger like what you have? I don't know, just words of wisdom from a guy who's in the process of really doing something incredibly big.
Yeah, I think, you made a couple comments earlier that I think were really relevant, which is that you have to know your audience. And I think it's, in our case anyway, in my experience, it's always been, how do you communicate a vision that you really believe that is big, that is the fully developed articulation of your vision, but provides enough, not too much, but enough credibility that people can actually believe it. It doesn't feel like pie in the sky. And that's a very difficult balance. And it depends a lot on who specifically you're speaking to and what their background knowledge is.
Well, I think at one point in the last show, it was 2 years ago. How old are you now? You're 30? You're 32. Oh, okay. I knew it was young. So you're about my daughter's age. And she's a real estate broker. And I made a prediction, and it went something like this, that you at 30, at the time, I think you were probably about 30, that you would be the most influential entrepreneur in Sacramento over the next 100 years. I have to say, you are taking strides in that way. So I still am going to hold that prediction. I'm not letting it go. I want to thank you, John, for coming on the show, sharing your story. I mean, I think it's very helpful for us entrepreneurs trying to build our dream here in Sacramento.
Thanks, sir. When
we come back, we are going to meet Mr. Craig Hetrick, the CEO of California Growth Advisors. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Addie Rockland. This is the HaneyBiz Project.